Are you using Notion to write down your tasks and to-dos, and every time you want to check one task off, you are opening the Notion mobile app, which is pretty clunky and not so user-friendly? Yeah, then I have a very good solution for you. You can just do that with a simple Apple shortcut, which is very neat, very user-friendly, and very simple to set up. And how to do that, I will show you in this video. So let's start. So what we need first is, of course, a database where you can enter your tasks or to-dos with the respective date, and a checkbox property that I just called done. So when we run this shortcut, we want this property to be checked. So how do we set up the shortcut? Before we open our Shortcuts app, we first need to create a connection, an integration. So therefore you have to have your database open as page, and then you click on these three dots here. You go to connections and to manage connections. Then this pop-up window will open and you scroll down and click develop or manage integrations. And then you click here on new integration. We can call this check tasks, or however you want to call it. You associate it to your workspace and you click save. Then you click here on configure integration settings, and then you will see here this line of dots. There is your internal integration secret, and this we will need when we set up the shortcut. But first we are going to connect this shortcut to our database. So we go back to Notion, click again here on connections, and then we search for our integration, which we call check tasks, and we connect our database to that integration. And then we can open our Shortcuts app, and we click on this little plus icon here and create a new shortcut. You give it a name, I just call it check tasks, and then you will need a text module. And in this text module, you paste now your internal integration secret. So we go back here, we copy this one and paste it in here. Sometimes you have to copy it twice because it doesn't work in the first place, but now it does. Then we want to store this integration secret as a variable so that we don't have to always copy paste this one whenever we need it. So we store it in a variable that we just call key. Then now we need our database ID, which we also copy into a text module. So now we go back to our database. You open the database as page again, click on these three dots, and you click here copy link. Then you paste this in the text module, and now you have to remove some part because we don't need all of that. So you remove everything until notion.so/. So including the slash you remove, and then you remove everything starting with the quotation mark. And what remains is your database ID, the part that we need. Also this we store as a variable, and we call it just database_ID. So what we want now is that we see in our shortcut when we run it only the tasks that are due today. So in that example here, only the two last ones, do laundry and walk the dog, the ones that are due today on September 7. So we need to set up the current date. And this we do with the module that is called format date. And here you just remove what is already written here, database ID. This is not what we want. So you clear this and you just type current date. This we have to format because Notion can only read the date in a specific format. So you click here on date format and you choose ISO 8601. And then you click here on show more and do the same here, date format ISO 8601, and then you can minimize that again. This we also store as a variable, so we need the set variable module again, and we call this formatted date. Let's better call it today formatted. That makes more sense later on. Today formatted, that is how we call it. So now we want the shortcut to get information from our Notion database. Therefore, we set up the get contents of URL module and remove what is already written here. So we clear that, and then we type https://api.notion.com/v1/databases/database ID. This is the variable that stores our database ID /query. And then you click here on show more, and the method here will be post. And here you open the headers, and we need 2 headers. And with these headers, it will be possible for our shortcut to access our Notion database via the Notion API. So our first key will be authorization, and here in the value we type Vera and key. And the second key will be Notion version, and this will be 2022-06-28. And that is all that we need for this module, so you can click here on show less. So now, as I said, with this module we want to retrieve some information. So we want to know what information does our database hold, and to see the results we need another module. So we need the get dictionary value, and here we type get value for results. So, and let's see what results we're getting. So you can use this show results module here whenever you want to check if all the steps that you are setting up are working properly. So let's run this. You will always, the first time you run the shortcut, you will always be asked if you want to allow this shortcut to connect to the Notion API. Of course we want, so we click allow. And then you get all this information. And this looks good, so everything works. If you get an error message, then of course it doesn't work. But if you get something that looks like this with ID, a lot of numbers and a lot of property names, and so then it works. So you can click done here. Okay, so we can remove this show results module again. So, and now we want the shortcut to check for the entries with the current date. So the date that is here written in the property date has to equal our formatted date, which is the current date, so the day of today or the day you're running the shortcut. Yeah, and the shortcut cannot do all at once, so it will do it repeatedly. It will go item by item and check whether the setup date equals the current date. So we need to set up something that tells it to repeat the action until it's done. And this is the repeat with each module. And now we need to get the value for the date. So you need, again, this get dictionary value. And normally you would type now properties dot, then the name of your property, which has to be exactly the name you have it here in Notion. So a good idea is to always copy paste it to not have any types in there. So the property is just called date in my case now, then dot date dot start. So this is how you would call for the date property. And that usually works. However, especially with tasks, you do not always have a date when this task is due. At least in my case. So sometimes I write down tasks, but they are not super urgent and also not super important. So they usually don't have a due date. However, in this case, you will need every task to have a due date for the shortcut to work. If now, for example, we remove this date here and we run our shortcut, you will get this error message, could not evaluate the key path. You click OK. Let's put this date back and run the shortcut again. And now it works. So now we get the dates of all our tasks that we have listed here. So what is a way to go around that is to split this up. So what we do now is we remove that and we take another get dictionary value. And first we ask now for properties. Then we set up another get dictionary value and ask for date. Then another one and ask for date again, but with a small d. So the one that we set up before is the name of our property. And the last one will be start. So as you can notice now, these 4 steps were done before in just one step. But this way also the shortcut works in case there is a date missing. For example, can check clear this again so we don't have a date here. We run the shortcut and here we get now 4 items with a date instead of the 5 that we have in our database. So in total we have 5 items, but only 4 have a date, and these 4 we get as a result now here. Okay, so now we have the date, but we need to have it in the exact format as we have it up here. So we need another format date module, and we format this dictionary value. You click on here and you change the type to date, and as in the date module before, you set it up here to ISO 8601. And here the same 8601 has to be the date format so Notion can read it, or the Notion API can work with it. Now we set a variable again and we call this variable entry date. Okay, so now we are getting the date here. What we also want is to get the status of this property. So if it's checked or not, because in the list that we will get when we run our shortcut, we of course only want to get the results or the tasks that haven't been done yet, that haven't been checked yet. We also want to get the status of this done property, and this we do similarly to the date property. We use again the get dictionary value, and here we ask now for properties dot done, which is again the name of your property dot checkbox, and that's it. So you ask for properties dot done dot checkbox, but not in entry date. We want that in our repeated item. So you clear this, what was written here. You click again and you choose select variable, and then here repeat item. And then we set a variable again, and we call this variable just is checked. Okay, and now we want to, of course, check if our entry date equals our current date, and also if our date or done property, if your done property is checked. So we need an if condition. So we choose this if module here, And then we choose here if you clear this variable, if choose here variables, if today formatted is entry date, and then you can click here on this plus icon, and if is checked, and then you see here it has any value, but we want something that says is true, is yes, is false, is wrong, something like this. Yeah, so you click on this variable here is checked, and you change the type to Boolean. Then you take the name here, and then you see here name is, and then you can write no, it has to be. And then we have to change here if any to if all, because we want both conditions to be met. And if these both conditions are true, then we want to get the ID for that page where these two conditions are true. So we use again the get dictionary value, and we want to get the value for ID. And then we also want to get the name for that page, so we use another get dictionary value. No, first we do something else. We set a variable again, so we set the variable page ID to that dictionary value, to this ID, and now we want to get the name as well. So we choose another get dictionary value, and we want to get the value for properties properties.name.title.1.plain_text. So this is how you ask for the title property here in the Notion database. And then we set a variable here again, and we call this page_title. Then we need a text module. And here we type quotation marks, colon quotation marks, and in these quotation marks, we enter now our page title, and in the other ones, page ID. If the shortcut doesn't find any pages where these two conditions are met, then we want it to do nothing. And then you cannot just leave this space empty here. You have to call a module that is called nothing. And then we end our repeat, and we can check what actually happens now. So we use the show results module again and put it at the very end of our shortcut. So you saw there is an error message. This is the reason why. So I forgot to change this here. So we of course we want to get the value for the page in the repeated item. So we change this here, we clear this, and we select the variable, and we want to get, where is it? Here, the value for the ID in the repeated item. The same happens here. Also here we clear this, and we need here the repeated item again. Okay, so now this is one, do laundry. And that's all, because we only have one item with the today's date, because the other one we removed. So let's put the date back here and run it again and see what happens. Okay, so now we get the two. So we first get the name of the to-do, the name of the page, followed by the ID, and the second one here as well. So you see, mistakes can happen very easily when setting up shortcuts. And if you get an error message, then my first advice is to always check if you have any typos or a space where there shouldn't be a space, and these things. And you see here, it is very easy to make mistakes also, because when you set up a module, it immediately automatically refers to the module set up before. So you always have to be careful, if you don't want to refer to that module set up before, that you change the reference. And this I forgot in this case. That's why I got this error message. But now everything is fixed and we can continue. So now we can remove this show result, and we now need a variable. No, now we need a module that is called combine text. So we put that at the end of our shortcut. And now we want to combine the repeat results, not with new lines. So we want to combine it with custom, namely with a comma. And now we need a text module again, and write 2 curly brackets. And in these curly brackets, we refer to our combined text, so the module directly before. And now, of course, we want to select the to-do that we want to check, right? So we need a list basically that shows us what to-dos are available to be checked today. And this we have in these repeat results and our combined text. So now we need a module that is called choose from list. Choose from list, and pre-set up here is text, which we don't want. So you click on text and you change the type here. You change it to dictionary, and then you want to get the keys. And then you click here on show more, and we can set up a prompt, for example, which to do you want to check. That is optional. It's also totally fine and works perfectly if you don't want to set up a prompt. And then we can click here, select multiple. That allows us to check multiple to-dos, multiple tasks at the same time. And then you can minimize that window or that module. So now we need to set up the command that tells the shortcut that it should check every task in our Notion database that we choose in that list that we set up here. So as I said before, it cannot do all at the same time. So it has to check repeatedly what task we choose and what it has to update. So we need to set up again a repeat with each module. And now we need again the get dictionary value, and we want to get the value for repeat item in, not in repeat item, but in the text. So you click select variable and you choose this combined text module here, so in text. So let's see what happens here. So now we can choose these two, for example. And this is the first ID that we get. And this is the second ID that we get. So what this module does here, the get value for repeat item and text, that it retrieves the IDs of the pages that we select. And this ID is what we need now in the next module, because we need now the get contents of URL, and we remove this dictionary value here and we type https://api.notion.com/v1/pages/ and now we need the page ID, but not the one that we have set up previously up here. We need the page ID of our repeat item. So we need this dictionary value actually. So after the slash we type, or we refer to, so we do a right click and we select insert variable, select variable, and you choose this module directly before the get contents of URL. Okay, so then you click on show more. The method this time is patch because we want to make changes. Then we open the headers here and we need 3 headers. The first one is again authorization and Vera, and then our key, our internal integration secret. The next one is Notion-version, which is 2022-06-28. And the third one is content-type, which is application/JSON. And then we need to tell the shortcut here what properties it has to update. And therefore we click on here on this little plus icon and type parent. Parent is a dictionary, so you need to change the type. You open parent and you click on the plus icon again. And here you type database_ID. This is not the variable, so do not choose the variable here. Just write the normal text. The type remains text, and now here as the value you can use the variable that we set up, which is database ID. Now you can close parent and you can click again on the plus icon and you type properties. This is a dictionary, that is correct. You open properties and you click on the plus icon and you type done, which has to be again exactly the name as you have it in your database property. Here you have to change the type again from text to dictionary and you open done. You click on this plus icon again and the key is called now checkbox. Here you have to change the type from text to Boolean and we want to set it to checked. So we want to set it to true. And that's it here. So you can minimize this module. And that's it for our shortcut. So we can now try to run it, see what happens. So let's say we want to walk the dog and do the laundry. Click done. And we get this message that looks good. We do not have any error here. And when we check our Notion database, here you see that these two to-dos, these 2 tasks with the date of today are checked. So this is how you can set up a simple shortcut to check your to-dos without having to open the clunky Notion mobile app. If you don't want to set up this shortcut yourself, then just click on the link in the description. There you can get the shortcut. Then I hope this video was helpful for you. If so, I would be very happy about a like. And if you are interested in more content about Notion, Apple shortcuts and automations, then I would be very happy also about a subscribe. And then see you in the next video. Bye bye.